America punished 2 scientists. One stayed and became a wound in American memory. The other was sent away and helped open China's space age. The first was J. Robert Oppenheimer. In 1954, he sat behind closed doors while his government asked whether the father of the atomic bomb could still be trusted. America remembers that room. The microphones, the transcripts, the questions about old friends and old loyalties. But there was another room, quieter, less famous, less cinematic. In it sat Qian Xuesen, known in the United States as Qian Xuesen. He was a Caltech-trained rocket scientist, a co-founder of what became the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, and someone America had trusted near the machinery of its future. Then the early Cold War made America afraid of him. Oppenheimer lost his clearance but remained in the country that punished him. Tsien lost his place in America and eventually left. One door opens into American memory. The other opens into China's space age. Before Tsien became a symbol, he was a student. In 1935, he came to the United States on a scholarship. First MIT, then Caltech, then the tight circle around Theodor von Karman at Goltsit, where mathematics, wind tunnels and explosives began to form a new language of flight. The future did not yet look like a rocket launch. It looked like chalk dust. It looked like students arguing over equations in rooms that smelled of hot metal and paper. It looked like small test motors, unstable funding, and a few young men trying to persuade the 20th century that controlled rocketry was not a fantasy. Tsien was inside that world early. The same security state would later put Oppenheimer in another room. But Tsien reached its machinery first. By 1939, Tsien had earned his doctorate. During the war, he served in American scientific and military work. He was sent to Germany to examine laboratories and question German scientists, including Werner von Braun. This matters because the later myth can make him sound like an outsider. America failed to screen. He was not outside. He was inside. In 1943, members of the Caltech rocketry group drafted a document that used a name that would later become famous, Jet Propulsion Laboratory. Tsien was part of that founding world, and in 1949, he became the Robert H. Goddard Professor of Jet Propulsion at Caltech. That is the first irony of the story. America did not lose a stranger. America lost someone it had already brought into the room. The Cold War built rooms where a scientist's past could be rearranged into suspicion. In 1950, Tsien was accused of communist ties and lost his security clearance. JPL's later account says no evidence emerged to substantiate the allegations, though historians still debate his sympathies. On September 6th, immigration officers took him into custody at Terminal Island. He left on bail 17 days later. Then came the trap. In April 1951, the Justice Department ordered him deported, but America did not send him away. It held him. 4 years later, Oppenheimer would lose his clearance and remain in America, visible enough to become a public wound. Tsien became something quieter, a scientist waiting in place. Some punishments are administrative. From 1953 to September 1955, Tsien could not travel beyond Los Angeles and had to report monthly to immigration authorities. It is often called house arrest. More precisely, he was held in legal limbo. Officials considered him too suspect to resume his work, and too knowledgeable to release casually, and Tsien kept writing. In 1954, while Oppenheimer faced his hearing, McGraw-Hill published Tsien's Engineering Cybernetics. A rocket scientist cut off from rockets wrote about control systems, while a system controlled his life. America could freeze the man, it could not freeze the knowledge. When the door opened, both would leave. On August 4th, 1955, the travel ban was lifted. Caltech's account connects the decision to negotiations involving American pilots captured during the Korean War. The exchange is almost unbearable in its neatness. America had decided Tsien was dangerous. Then America decided he could be useful as a bargaining piece. On September 17th, 1955, Tsien boarded the President Cleveland with his wife Zhang Ying and their 2 children. The ship left Los Angeles for Hong Kong. There should be a word for this kind of moment. Not exile exactly, not escape exactly, not deportation in the simple sense either, because the legal order, surveillance, negotiation, and diplomatic exchange all sit inside the same frame. So let us call it what the story can support. After 5 years under order, restriction, surveillance, and negotiation, the United States let him go, and China received him. This is the point where Oppenheimer's echo becomes useful. Oppenheimer was punished by the American state, then kept inside American memory. Decades later, the United States would declassify the full hearing transcript. In 2022, the Department of Energy would vacate the old decision against him. America eventually reopened Oppenheimer's door, but Qian's door had opened onto a ship. Navy Undersecretary Dan Kimball later called the decision one of the stupidest things the country had ever done. That line survives because it names the fear underneath the file. The fear was not only that Tsien might serve another power, the fear was that America had helped make that possible. The clean version says Tsien returned to China and built its missiles. History is not that clean. It is ministries, academies, engineers, factories, failures, and thousands of people whose names resist a neat sentence. The precise claim is stronger. After returning, Tsien became one of the chief architects of China's missile and space institutions. In 1956, he took charge of the 5th Academy of the Ministry of National Defense. From that institutional world came the Dongfang missile lineage and the Long March launch vehicles. Tsien did not single-handedly build China's nuclear arsenal or design its atomic bomb. His role was on the delivery side, missiles, launch systems, and institutions capable of carrying national power into the sky. That is enough. America pushed out a rocket scientist. China received a man who understood how to build rocket institutions. Fear did not create every Chinese success that followed. It removed a rare mind from one system and helped place him inside another at exactly the wrong century. By 1970, China had become the 5th country to place a satellite in orbit using its own rocket. Tsien was not a lone magician behind that achievement, but he belonged to the institutional path that made it possible. After his death, China remembered him in the language nations reserved for useful myths. Father of Chinese rocketry, missiles, and spaceflight. Oppenheimer became an American tragedy, the brilliant man burned by the state he served. Tsien became a Chinese return story, the son pushed out by America, welcomed home, and turned into proof that humiliation could become ascent. Both stories simplify a person into a symbol. Qian's later life complicates the heroic version. In the 1980s, he lent public legitimacy to research into Qigong, ESP, and alleged extraordinary bodily abilities. Critics called it pseudoscience. He did not create that movement, but his stature made dubious claims harder to dismiss. That does not erase what he built. It reminds us what states do with useful scientists. They turn them into monuments, and monuments are not people. So we return to the corridor, 2 doors. Behind one is Oppenheimer. Transcripts, hearings, films, arguments, rehabilitation. A nation returning again and again to the question of whether it wronged the man who helped build its most terrible weapon. Behind the other is Qian Xuesen. A file, a travel restriction, a ship, a ministry, a launch field. One scientist became a wound inside American memory. The other became a consequence outside it. That is why the Oppenheimer echo belongs in this story, but cannot be the story. Oppenheimer helps Western viewers recognize the room. Tsien shows what can happen when the room opens onto the world. The lesson is not that America punished a genius. Countries do that often. The lesson is more frightening. Fear, once dressed as security, can become strategy for the other side. And sometimes the file you close in one country becomes the blueprint another country opens. Then let Qian's door close last.